Today we're at the Fisher's Hill battlefield just outside of Strasburg, Virginia. General Jubal Early's defeated Confederates fell back to Fisher's Hill after their defeat at 3rd Winchester. Called the Confederacy's Gibraltar, Fisher's Hill itself consisted of a steep 4-mile incline with rocks and boulders scattered across the face. The Shenandoah River at its base anchored the right flank. Little North Mountain, perceived as impassable, anchored the left flank. So the Shenandoah River is over in that direction. That is Signal Knob. And down in front of us is Tumbling Run, the base of the hill, and the Little North Mountain is over there. It's only 4 miles from Little North Mountain over to Massanutten Mountain. It's one of the narrowest portions of the Shenandoah Valley here. A stretch of relatively flat ground ran from the base of Little North Mountain to the Confederate line where we are currently standing. General Ramseur's division held this position, the extreme left of the infantry line, and the portion the Federals most likely would attack. The Federal Army of the Shenandoah did not linger long in Winchester and arrived here in Strasburg the next day, September 20th. General Sheridan realized General Early's men held a formidable position atop Fisher's Hill. At a council of war, General Crook suggested a flank attack on the Confederate left, and General Sheridan agreed. The Battle of Fisher's Hill started in the morning of September 22nd, when men from the 6th and 19th Corps moved forward to hold the Confederates in place, while General Crook's Army of West Virginia moved into position to deliver the flanking attack. General Crook's men were ordered to move in light marching order. They started to march shortly after daybreak. The column, with General Crook in the lead, moved very slowly, cautiously, through ravines and woodlots. General Crook, dressed in a plain blouse with no insignia of rank and a slouch hat, led the way in person. He used the terrain to shield his men from the Confederates here atop Fisher's Hill. He even told the color bearers to trail their colors so they could not be seen. So Crook's men are going to be moving towards Little North Mountain in this direction, off to our left. Just before 3 p.m., the men stopped to drop their knapsacks, arrange their canteens, bayonet scabbards, and cups to avoid any noise on the last portion of their march. Private Daniel Wright in the 54th Pennsylvania wrote, "The men stopped and stacked knapsacks, formed a line in a piece of woods. Then we went and got our things and went on to the right flank." The ascent up Little North Mountain proved difficult. You can see a little bit of it through the trees here. It's really steep. The men struggled over and around large rocks and through ravines that dotted the steep incline. Many of the men grabbed brush and saplings to keep their footing. Some fell and injured themselves, including Private Wright, who tried to keep up. Eventually, the thick underbrush gave way to a clearing. Crossing it would expose the column to the Confederates, but the men pressed on. A few Confederate officers atop Fisher's Hill saw General Crook's men as they crossed the clearing and reported the sighting to General Ramseur. Ramseur, his attention still drawn to the 6th Corps skirmishers to the hills in our front here, initially dismissed the reports, commenting the lines of blue infantry only looked like a fence row. However, after looking through his binoculars at the Federal columns, an astonished General Ramseur passed the information along to General Early, but refused to shift any of his men unless the commanding officer ordered it. Ramseur still believed that the attack would come from his front, the 6th Corps skirmishers on that hillside in front of us. Unfortunately for the Confederates, General Ramseur's warning did not reach General Early in time. General Crook's men reached their position without any more Confederates spotting them. Just as the column passed the extreme left of the Confederate line, where we're at right now, the command to move by the left flank rang out. The men quickly moved from a marching column into a battle line. General Crook placed Colonel Joseph Toburn's division on the left of Colonel Rutherford B. Hayes's men. Each division formed 2 lines, with one brigade 15 to 20 yards behind the other. Colonel Toburn formed his division with Colonel George Welles's brigade out front and Colonel Thomas Harris's brigade, which included the 54th Pennsylvania, in support. Confederate artillery shells exploding in the treetops, General Crook rode along the lines, telling his men not to yell until he ordered the advance. At 4 p.m., General Crook ordered his 2 divisions forward. Ignoring their commander's earlier request, the men let out a yell and ran down the steep slope of Little North Mountain. Private Wright, injured in the ascent, no longer could keep up and wrote, "I fell out there and went to Strasburg." The rocks and thick underbrush instantly destroyed all organization. Sensing the surprise they achieved, the men rushed forward. No line, no order, all yelling like madmen, recalled Colonel Hayes. Once the Federals cleared the wood line and entered a small swale at the base of Fisher's Hill, they saw the Confederate entrenchments. One Federal wrote, "The sight of this, instead of checking the men, seemed to inspire them with new ardor. Every man yelled, if possible, louder than before, and each regiment strove to be the first in with its colors." Colonel Toburn added, "The command emerged from the woods, yelling and firing, the enemy running from their works in disorder. After brushing aside a few Confederate pickets, the blue waves slammed into the dismounted cavalry that would have been at the base of the hill directly in front of us here now. General Ramseur reacted quickly and wheeled his nearest brigade and some artillery to protect his endangered flank. The Confederates opened fire. The musketry and canister temporarily slowed Colonel Toburn's division, who bore the brunt of the Confederate fire. A few men turned around and started for the wood line. General Crook, riding behind his men, picked up a bundle of rocks and started hurling them at any man who shirked his duty. Most of the men turned around to face the Confederates instead of their corps commander. General Ramseur attempted to shift more of his men to his crumbling flank. A few regiments stood and delivered a volley. General Crook's men, sensing victory, returned a devastating fire of their own. In the 54th Pennsylvania, Captain John Sutter recalled, "We began to storm the works about 5 p.m. and made short work of it. Sheridan's whole army charged. The 2 Federal Corps converged on the remaining Confederates, still valiantly holding their works, and delivered a devastating fire from 3 sides. The overwhelming cauldron of Federal fire broke the last 2 of General Ramseur's brigades and sent them streaming to the rear. Private Saylor recalled their charge, drove the rebels off Fisher's Hill. Sergeant Marshall Van Scoten added, the Confederates were compelled to beat a hasty retreat, closely pursued by our victorious forces. An officer in the 54th Pennsylvania reported, we again attacked the enemy at Fisher's Hill and flanked them on their left, routing and driving them 3 miles without the loss of a man. Our regiment was again in the advance of the charge." And we are currently looking right at the spot where the 54th Pennsylvania would have reached the crest here of Fisher's Hill and slammed into the Confederate defenders in their flank. Reflecting on this battle, Private Reuben Stover, Company G, 54th Pennsylvania, wrote to a friend, "Our regiment got in a fight at Fisher's Hill, the best and hardest place and position of the rebels. We took 22 guns of artillery and make 5,000 prisoners. General Crook's jumbled corps stayed at Fisher's Hill to sort itself out, care for the wounded, and bury the dead." Captain Sutter looked around, and in addition to the artillery, noted the Federals captured flags, standards, ammunition wagons, etc. The enemy were panic-stricken and fled in confusion. The 54th Pennsylvania mercifully suffered light casualties. 1 officer and 6 enlisted men received wounds. Many of the wounds are of the severe character, having been made by shells, Colonel Harris remarked. The rest of General Early's army is going to retreat down the Shenandoah Valley with Union cavalry and elements of the 19th Corps in pursuit. Thank you for watching this episode of In the Footsteps of the 54th.